memorable incident from my past always stands out, as it remains one of the most peculiar encounters my family and I have ever experienced. Back when I was much younger, this event unfolded. It's etched in my memory as a blend of strangeness and discomfort, a story that has remained vivid over time. During one of our family outings to the grocery store, I couldn't have imagined that such an ordinary errand would take a bizarre turn. We embarked on our monthly trip to stock up on essentials, anticipating a leisurely excursion. Around that time, I was about 12 years old and had developed a keen sense of observation and an ability to gauge people's behavior. Our journey within the store commenced in the produce aisle, and it was in this innocuous setting that I noticed an odd character. A man who stood awkwardly close to us appeared to be feigning interest in the vegetables on display. His posture, however, was distinctly off-putting. While his back was ostensibly turned to us, something about his stance seemed out of sync. I noticed that as we inched forward, he would subtly adjust himself, ensuring his back continued to face us. As we drew closer, I discerned the reason behind his odd behavior. He was donning those peculiar see-behind glasses, those quirky sunglasses equipped with hidden mirrors on the inside of the lenses, enabling one to view what's behind. He wore a disheveled gray zip-up jacket and had unkempt, dark, and lengthy hair. I guessed him to be in his 40s. Throughout our shopping expedition, regardless of where we moved, I repeatedly caught him staring at me from different corners of the store. He maintained a calculated distance from us, yet he always remained within sight, no matter where we wandered within the store. Roughly 30 minutes into our shopping, my mother hadn't yet noticed this unsettling presence. However, I had become increasingly unnerved by his actions. Initially skeptical of my concerns, my mother slowly started to take my observations seriously. As we ventured into the refrigerated aisles, the situation escalated. Regardless of the aisle we entered, he would briskly walk past us at intervals. His pretense at shopping was now minimal. The tension mounted as both my sister and mother became aware of his conspicuous presence. At one point, while we were selecting an item from a shelf, I saw him on the adjacent aisle, peering through the gaps in the shelves, his sunglasses still in place, now accompanied by a raised hood. In an attempt to shake off this unsettling stranger, we started briskly zigzagging through the store, changing our path abruptly. However, he demonstrated a remarkable ability to keep pace with us, always staying at the far end of whichever aisle we occupied. Growing increasingly concerned, we approached the customer service area to discuss the matter with a manager. Temporarily, it seemed we had lost sight of him. Speaking with the manager, we relayed our disconcerting experience. The manager, responsive and understanding, volunteered to approach the man and engage in a conversation. We waited at the counter, a mixture of anxiety and curiosity filling the air. When the manager returned, she seemed puzzled. With a furrowed brow, she approached my mother and shared what she had learned. He claims, "You're his mother." Naturally, this revelation was unsettling, both to my mother and sister. The manager completed our transactions, reassuring us that we could leave and they would accompany the man. As we exited the store, a disturbing scene unfolded before us. The man stood across the parking lot, right opposite our car, his head slightly tilted, and an unsettling grin on his face. Our instinctive reaction was to speed away, and though we left the scene, we couldn't shake the eerie image of him just standing there, intently watching us as we departed. A year and a half ago, I was working the night shift at a rest stop and truck station in Massachusetts, USA. Our facility had a 24-hour bathroom and gas station, making it a common stop for travelers passing through. On one particular night, after my restaurant closed at midnight, I decided to join my friend Jake, who worked at the gas station, for a chat until the early hours of the morning. As usual, I sat with Jake, sipping on a beer and enjoying the camaraderie. It was a quiet night initially, with only a few customers. However, around 1:30 a.m., things changed. Two cars parked almost simultaneously, one at a gas pump and the other in front of the store. This wasn't unusual, and we naturally looked towards the front door to greet the incoming customers. Among the arrivals, I noticed a woman walking towards the store with a young girl who appeared to be her daughter. Simultaneously, another man was heading into the store. The woman opened the door to enter while her daughter veered towards the restroom. At the same time, the man, parked right in front of the cashier's window, approached the store's front door. Something about the man's behavior struck me as peculiar. He attempted to open the front door, but his attention seemed to be drawn to his left, where the restroom was located. Abruptly, he changed direction and hastened towards the restroom area where the woman's daughter had gone. This sudden shift in focus raised alarm bells in my mind. Feeling uneasy, I exchanged glances with Jake, who shared my concerns. Despite the potential danger, no state trooper had arrived, as they often did at our location due to its proximity to the highway and limited rest stops in the area. Unsure of what to do, I decided to investigate. I unlocked the doors leading to the dining area, which I knew well from my time working at the fast food restaurant and the rest stop. Hiding myself from view, I peered through the glass door leading to the restrooms. I couldn't see the woman's daughter, but I did spot the man entering the women's restroom. Without hesitation, I took action. Knowing I couldn't take any chances, I unlocked the door and cautiously entered the restroom. The man was inside, and I felt a surge of fear mixed with determination. With a quick punch to his face and a follow-up kick to the side of his head, I managed to incapacitate him. He fell backward, hitting his head on the sink. Terrified by the incident, I immediately called 911 and reported what had happened. I explained to the state troopers who arrived shortly after that I had intervened in the women's restroom to protect someone from a potential threat. The troopers reviewed the CCTV footage from the gas station, validating my account of events. After reviewing the footage, the troopers commended my quick actions and acknowledged the potential threat the man posed. Despite my intentions being in the right place, they issued me a $25 fine for entering the restroom, as it was against the rules. Although I don't know the outcome of the incident or the fate of the man, I hope my actions that night made him think twice about his intentions. While I don't consider myself a hero, I am grateful that I had the opportunity to intervene and potentially prevent harm to someone else. The incident left me with mixed emotions, wondering if our paths would cross again. Regardless, I'm content with knowing I acted to protect others and made a difference that night. As I continue with my life, I can't help but hope that my actions made the world a little safer for someone in need. Recently, my passion for cosplaying has grown, and I've been immersing myself in the world of conventions. I've been creating my own costumes for a while now, but it was only recently that I decided to delve deeper into the realm of cosplay. Over the past year, I've attended several conventions, but unfortunately, I experienced my first negative incident during one of them. For this particular convention, I chose to don my Supergirl cosplay. I had spent considerable time and effort crafting and perfecting the outfit, and overall, I was quite pleased with the result. Throughout the day, a few people approached me, expressing their admiration and requesting pictures. Generally, I happily obliged and posed for them. Later in the convention, my friends had left, but I had plans to meet up with other friends later that night. Wanting to take a break from wandering around, I settled in a hallway that had a small seating area. As I sat there, someone approached me and asked for a picture. I consented and stood up to strike a pose. Unexpectedly, he remarked, "Thank you for being one of the few cosplayers who actually has the physique to pull that cosplay off." Startled, I retorted, "Excuse me." Instantly, my desire to have my picture taken with him vanished. While he fumbled to explain himself, I decided I no longer wished to engage with him. I swiftly gathered my bag and started to walk away. Astonishingly, he reached out and physically tried to prevent me from leaving. Reacting instinctively, I pushed him away and sternly exclaimed, "Do not touch me." Determined to distance myself from the situation, I continued walking, paying little attention to his shouts, other than to reiterate my request for him not to touch me again. In the heat of the moment, I didn't have the opportunity to report him immediately as I simply wanted to escape the uncomfortable encounter. However, approximately 15 minutes later, as I was on my way to meet my other friends, I spotted him once more. Without hesitation, I made a beeline toward the nearest staff member to report his behavior. Glancing over my shoulder, I noticed him glaring at me, adopting an unsettling Kubrick stare that emanated an aura of misplaced edginess. I recounted the incident to the staff member, all the while aware that he was slowly making his way toward me. As I finished sharing my story, he stood only 5 feet away, attempting to justify his words by saying, "What I meant was that most cosplayers are overweight." I promptly interrupted him and walked away, as my friends were waiting for me. It was disheartening to witness his defensive reaction instead of a sincere apology for his inappropriate actions. I was well aware of his initial intentions, which is precisely why I found his behavior offensive. Later that night, I followed up with the Con Ops team. They assured me that they had spoken to him, added him to their watch list, and informed me. I'm not saying this is an excuse, but he explained that he was autistic and didn't actually mean harm. I expressed that despite his explanation, harm had indeed been done, and he had made me feel incredibly unsafe. The Con Ops representative assured me that they would work on banning him from the remaining weekend events, although not from the convention as a whole. Due to work commitments, I could only attend the convention on Friday, so I am unaware of any developments that may have occurred thereafter. 2 decades ago, a significant health event unfolded in my life. I underwent a bypass surgery. The surgeons, after careful consideration, advised me against using the bypass machine. They believed my heart was in remarkable shape and that the potential side effects of the bypass machine outweighed the benefits. I remember signing a waiver that absolved the surgeons of responsibility, essentially allowing them to take a calculated risk with my life in order to perform the procedure. The day of the surgery arrived, and I was prepared for the operation. Anesthesia took over my senses, and the surgeons began their intricate work. They made incisions, opening up my chest and navigating through my sternum to access my heart. To create the bypass, they also cut into my left shin to access the donor vein. The surgical team then placed my body on ice to slow down my heart, a crucial part of the procedure. As my heart was intentionally stopped, the bypass was performed with precision. Once the surgery was completed, the surgeons used specialized tools within my chest cavity to gently shock my heart back to its rhythm, effectively restarting it. During what I believe could have been the time when my heart was intentionally stopped, I had an extraordinary experience. I found myself in a dark, enveloping space illuminated only by flickering light at the edges, akin to the static you'd see on an old TV screen when the broadcast had ended for the night. I sensed a multitude of people around me, moving together as if guided by some invisible force. The atmosphere was bustling, and I felt the pressure of others as we moved in unison. This surreal procession seemed to stretch on for what felt like an extended period. Eventually, the moving mass led me to a radiant light, much like peering through a porthole on a ship. On the other side of that light were 2 figures, people who appeared to be waiting for me. As I approached this illuminated doorway, my awareness returned to the present, and I regained consciousness in the recovery room. To my astonishment, my 2 closest friends were standing by my bedside, looking down at me with expressions of concern and relief. The experience I had during that surgery defies explanation, leaving me with profound memories and questions. Though I cannot fully articulate the details of that otherworldly journey, or where it took place, its impact has remained etched in my mind ever since. I was walking home from work one day when I noticed a man following me. He was wearing a black hoodie and jeans, and he was walking very fast. I tried to ignore him at first, but he kept getting closer and closer. I started to feel uneasy and decided to take a shortcut through an alleyway. As soon as I entered the alleyway, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around and saw the man standing there, staring at me with his cold, dead eyes. He started walking towards me slowly, and I could feel my heart racing faster and faster. I tried to run away, but he grabbed me by the arm and pulled me back. He whispered something in my ear that I couldn't understand, and then he disappeared into the darkness. I was terrified and didn't know what to do. I ran home as fast as I could and locked all the doors and windows. But that was just the beginning of my nightmare. Every night after that, I would hear strange noises coming from outside my house. It sounded like someone was trying to break in. I would wake up in the middle of the night covered in sweat, convinced that the man in the black hoodie was standing outside my window. I started seeing him everywhere I went. He would be standing on street corners, watching me from across the room at restaurants, even following me into my office building. I tried to tell people about him, but no one believed me. They all thought I was crazy, but I knew what I had seen. One day, I decided to confront him. I followed him into an abandoned building on the outskirts of town. As soon as I entered the building, I knew something was wrong. The air was thick with an eerie silence that made my skin crawl. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around and saw the man in the black hoodie standing there with a knife in his hand. He lunged at me with the knife, but I managed to dodge out of the way just in time. We fought for what felt like hours until finally, he collapsed on the ground in front of me. As he lay there dying, he whispered something in my ear that sent chills down my spine. I never found out who he was or why he was after me, but even now, years later, I still have nightmares about him. And every time I hear strange noises outside my window at night, I can't help but wonder if he's come back for me.